Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ian McNaughton. Thank you for joining us. So we got two videos coming out. This one coming out on Friday is going to be my Ian reviews / previews rugby video, where I talk about last week's results, talk about this upcoming weekend's fixtures. And then tomorrow on Saturday, I'm going to have my British Grand Prix review, a little bit of a Hungarian Grand Prix kind of preview. So pretty much it's rugby on Friday, F1 on Saturday, since there is no F1 this week. It's been a crazy week in terms of hockey coverage, in terms of basketball coverage. It's just been a lot of content all over the place. So now I finally got the time to do the YouTube portion for this week. Hopefully you enjoy it. We got a lot of stuff we got to talk about with rugby, including, again, some Rugby World Cup qualifying matches that took place over the weekend. We got some Rugby Europe Championship events that took place over the weekend. British and Irish Lions actually have their first test match against the Springboks this weekend. So it should be really good stuff. So first, I'll kind of go backwards here with the games on Sunday, going back to last Friday. For myself here, I'm in Vancouver. We're in Canada, so I'm going to go back from games from Sunday to about last Friday, early Saturday, really. So let's start with Uruguay and Chile in 2023 Rugby World Cup, South Africa qualifying, or South America qualifying, not South Africa qualifying. South America qualifying. So this is the first game of 2023 Rugby World Cup qualifying for the South America 1 spot, which whoever wins the South America 1 spot, likely to be Uruguay, will then be playing the North America 1 team for the America's 1 spot in the 2023 Rugby World Cup. This is a closer score for Uruguay than anticipated, as they just narrowly defeated Chile 15-10. Uruguay plays Brazil this upcoming Sunday, July 25th. Closer than anticipated, considering that Uruguay blew out the second Argentina team, Argentina XV, the week before in kind of their tune-up match for this game against Chile. So it's closer than anticipated game. We'll see if there's possibly an upset against Brazil on Sunday for Uruguay, but right now the favorites for the South America 1 spot is Uruguay. Also, 2023 Rugby World Cup qualifying this past weekend took place in New Zealand between Samoa and Tonga. Samoa won 37-15. Samoa officially clinches the Oceania 1 spot with the win. They blew out Tonga the weekend before on July 10th, I believe it was. That match also took place in New Zealand. This is the second leg of 2 matches. Not really surprising that Samoa won both games, but they officially clinched their spot into the Rugby World Cup. They'll be in Group D, which includes England, Argentina, and Japan as of right now. Yet to be named in that group is the America's 2 team, which could be Uruguay, it could be the US, it could be Canada. It's probably one of those 3 teams that's going to round out Group D in the 2023 Rugby World Cup. So Tonga are not completely out of qualifying yet. They will play the Cook Islands this weekend, Saturday, as a matter of fact, July 24th. They will play the Cook Islands to advance to the Asia Pacific Playoff Series to qualify as the playoff winner. So Tonga has to play Cook Islands this weekend, and then they go and play the winner of Asia Pacific 1, which is likely Hong Kong. So Japan is already qualified for the Rugby World Cup. So Japan, they don't need to do any more qualifying for that. The last team, I believe, remaining is, the last 3 teams remaining are Hong Kong, South Korea, and somebody else I can't remember. But it's very much like, if you're going off of world rankings, Hong Kong is the highest ranked team. I believe they're 30th in the world right now, and South Korea is 44th. So based off that, and Tonga should beat the Cook Islands. So based on all the theoretical events, what should happen, we should see a Tonga versus Hong Kong Asia Pacific playoff series here. That'll also be a 2-leg event here in the near future. Samoa's next match is against the Barbarians at Twickenham on November 27th. That's going to be a really fun match. Really exciting to see how that plays out. So pretty much they're done for the summer. They don't have any more international matches for the summer series for any internationals until November 27th. They might have some more scheduled in the works, but all we know right now is November 27th against the Barbarians at Twickenham. It's the next time we'll see Samoa play. Speaking of Oceania teams, the All Blacks defeated Fiji 60-13. Another dominating performance for the All Blacks, who have just been crushing it since they got back against Tonga a couple weeks ago. That's 2 wins in a row against Fiji. I believe that they put up 60 points or more. They'll now prepare. New Zealand will now prepare for the Rugby Championship and the Bledisloe Cup. So the Bledisloe Cup will be against Australia August 7th. I don't know where the location. I think it's in New Zealand. They're going to start it, and then it'll move to Australia. And then September 11th against Argentina is when the Rugby Championship starts. So New Zealand will have 3 matches against Australia, and then they'll move into their Rugby Championship matches. Fiji's next match isn't until November 14th when they do their UK tour. I believe they have a game against France, a game against Wales, and a game against somebody else. This is also kind of bringing up the Rugby Championship expansion debate. So right now, the Rugby Championship includes New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, South Africa, kind of the old Zanzar teams. Now there's been talk, well, maybe they should add Fiji to this, maybe add Japan to this, Samoa and Tonga. Obviously, Samoa and Tonga are not near the same level as New Zealand and South Africa and those teams. Again, Tonga got blown out 100-0 several weeks ago. So it's not necessarily about trying to create the competitive matches by adding these teams. It's about giving more opportunities for these lesser nations, more room to grow and to play. And I'd like to just see more teams get the opportunity to play. I think more games helps any nation. New Zealand is already playing quite a few games. They have a full schedule pretty well going through August into September into October, and then culminating in November. But I'd like to see Japan kind of get a regular sort of thing going with the Rugby Championship teams. Who knows if it's going to happen or not? But I'm up for it. I'm totally up for it. It's kind of similar to the Six Nations debate about, should we add Georgia or get rid of Italy? It's that sort of thing with the Rugby Championship. But it's a debate. It'll probably go on forever. I don't know if they'll decide anything here, especially post-pandemic. We'll see. We'll also talk about the Australia-France match that took place over the weekend for a bit. Australia beat France 33-30 in the third game between the two. So they had a best of 3, if that's what you want to call it, France tour of Australia. Australia took 2 of 3 games against France. This was for the most part a fairly normal Australia roster. It was a weaker France squad, considering, again, Roman Nidamak, Antoine Dupont were both not playing due to travel restrictions and quarantine time and all that sort of stuff. But Australia, nevertheless, they prevailed. They took 2 or 3 from France. It was a big match for Noah Lolesio, who scored 23 of Australia's 33 points last Saturday with 1 try, 3 conversions, 4 penalties. He had a tremendous game for Australia, carrying them from beginning to end. Also, an impressive performance from Melvin Gemini. He had 15 points in place of Louis Carbonell. So with Nidamak out, Louis Carbonell has been serving as the 10, the fly half for France in this Australia tour since they were playing their second game in, I believe, 4 days. They played on Wednesday and then they played on Saturday last week. Carbonell got the rest on Saturday, meaning Gemini got the start, and he got 15 points for France. So Australia's next match is, again, I mentioned it earlier, the Bledisloe Cup against New Zealand, August 7th. And then France's fall matches. So France is done for the summer. They did their tour of Australia, more or less successful. They got to go to Australia. They got to travel. They got to play the Wallabies for 3 games. They lost 2, but still a weaker roster. There are 3 matches that they have scheduled for the fall include hosting Argentina on November 6th at the Stade de France. That's going to be a really fun game. November 14th against Georgia in Bordeaux, and then November 20th against the All Blacks at Stade de France. That's going to be the big match taking place. I would think in the fall. It's a preview of the Rugby World Cup opening match in 2023. The All Blacks are coming back to Europe for the first time in a while. Should be really excited to see how that goes. So look out for November 20th. Mark that on your calendars, folks. November 20th, France hosts New Zealand at the Stade de France. The Rugby Europe Championship, Portugal defeats Russia 49-26 last week. No surprise, Portugal dominates Russia from start to finish. This all but confirms Portugal as the Europe 2 team in the 2023 World Cup, which means they'll likely be in Pool B with South Africa, Ireland, Scotland, likely Tonga. So kudos to Portugal for getting back into the Rugby World Cup. Russia needs to beat Spain and the Netherlands to have the best chance at qualifying as the Europe 3 for the final qualifying tournament for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. There are different ways for Russia to get in. They don't necessarily have to win both games. However, their best chance of making Europe 3 for the final qualifying tournament is by beating both Spain and the Netherlands, who are the 2 lowest, weakest teams. They're the bottom 2 in the standings right now in the Rugby Europe Championship. Those matches will be taking place sometime before the end of the year. I believe there's one summer match scheduled, and then I believe there's a fall match as well. But we'll see how that goes. So Russia, they need to win to stay alive. Not impossible, but we'll see. So kudos to Portugal. Nothing, again, the Rugby Europe Championship is not official. None of these spots are given quite yet. However, we shall see. Argentina defeats Wales 33-11 in Cardiff. No comeback for Wales last week. The previous week before, they had a massive comeback where they tied Argentina, but not happening this past Saturday. Argentina has not lost since November 28th against New Zealand. And since November 14th, they've had 3 wins, 3 ties, and 1 loss. So Argentina is again, they're always the most hit and miss team for myself. Like they can either be really hot or they can be really cold. They seem to be playing well post-COVID. They had really good matches against New Zealand and Australia last year in the Rugby Championship. They had 2. I mean, I know they probably wanted to beat Wales the previous week, but they've had 2 really good matches against Wales. Speaking of Wales, they end the summer with a win against Canada and a draw and a loss to Argentina. Considering that they don't have a full roster, as some guys are off playing with the Lions, not the end of the world. I think you can live with it. Again, this isn't the same team that was winning the Six Nations back in the winter and the spring. This is just a couple of replacement players. Lee Halfpenny, obviously, the major loss after having knee surgery after the game against Canada. Wales, I'm not too worried about. Wales are fine. Pablo Matero, racist guy who has some sketchy social media posts. He had tries on back-to-back weekends against Wales. Argentina's next match will be August 14th against South Africa. That's going to be their start to the Rugby Championship, so look out for that. That's going to be a highly competitive match. Wales' next match is October 30th versus New Zealand. So like I said, New Zealand, they're going to be playing straight through pretty much August, September, October. I mentioned it earlier, Wales is playing, or New Zealand is playing France November 20th in Paris. They're going to be playing Wales October 30th in Cardiff. Some really good matches there. I'll talk about the Lions briefly here, the British and Irish Lions. They defeated the Stormers last week, DHL Stormers, 48-3. Last warm-up match for them before the Saturday test versus South Africa on the 24th. 7 different try scored for the Lions, including Louis Rees-Zammit, Jack Conan, Luke Cowan-Dickey, Xander Ferguson, Hill, Sam Simmons, Beer, all the 7 different players got tries. Great effort for the Lions. Tim Swiel, Swiel, he had the opening penalty for the Stormers, so kudos to him for at least getting on the board. The Lions, of course, they had their match against the Springboks A team a couple Wednesdays ago. They lost that match. I'm guessing it's going to be closer to that type of match than it is the Stormers and the Sharks. So it's going to be a fantastic match on Saturday when the Springboks and the Lions meet up for the first time in 12 years, I think it is. So talking about this weekend's games briefly, again, Springboks versus Lions. We know what the lineups are looking like. Colby will be playing. The Clerk, what's this? I feel like I should know this name. I could probably just Google it, but not the point. The Springboks pretty much have a full roster of players. They're a Rugby World Cup winning team. They're for the most part playing against the Lions. The Lions, they pretty much have a full team. The guy to watch for the Lions, I would say, is Marcus Smith. He just got into South Africa recently. He had the great match against Canada while playing for England a few weeks ago. Now he's going to be, I believe, the starting 10 for the Lions this upcoming weekend. I think I want the Lions to win. I just want it to be a great game. I don't know if I want the Lions to win. I just want it to be a great game. I think it will be a great game. I just want good rugby. It's what I want more than anything. It's just good rugby, and I think we'll see that between the Springboks and the Lions. Tonga versus Cook Islands. So like I mentioned, the winner of this match in New Zealand will be moving on to the Asia Pacific Playoff Series. Tonga should be the favorites. We'll see how that goes, though. It could be a really big blowout. And then 2023 Rugby World Cup qualifying South Africa match this weekend, Uruguay and Brazil. This could be an upset for Brazil. We shall see. Again, Uruguay with the close game against Chile that I mentioned off the top. I think Uruguay will win. They'll find a way to win. However, it's, again, going to be a competitive game. It's going to be fantastic to watch. You can see that one July 25th. That's going to be on the Sunday after the big games on Saturday. So that's Ian reviews, previews, rugby from this past week and the upcoming week. I'm sure I'll do another preview video next week, even with all the content we got going on and all the stuff happening. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like this video, be sure to like it. And if you didn't like this video, tell me why in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching. Greatly appreciated. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk again soon.